again, then I'll just record it without streaming all the way. But cool.
Okay.
Okay, so you were saying that, yeah. So what were some of the first kind of builds that you had growing up?
First build, basically I made, I tried making a crossbow out of wood, just went out to the shop real young and started cutting wood and cutting bungee cords and
Yeah.
stuff. And then in middle school, I made a potato gun, and I used a like a 4-inch, I think it's clean cap, like a thread-on cap on the back end of the chamber. And so
Yeah.
I had tested it a couple times, and I brought my family out into the backyard to watch them. And I was maybe 6th or 7th grade, and apparently it had started cracking after a few tests. And so the one time my family is standing there watching, just totally explodes and a ball of fire shoots out. And yeah, that was the end of that. But anyways, yeah, I didn't really make anything later or after that until when I was about 17, and I bought my first car, which is a 64 GMC.
Oh, cool. So did like were your parents like did they make stuff? Like you mentioned that you had a shop space. Like what your parents do?
Yeah, I didn't really have a shop space growing up, and we had some simple, DIY tools around the house. But yeah, my dad is an aerospace engineer. My stepdad is a mechanical engineer, both
Oh,
for
cool.
Boeing. And yeah, we did house projects and built some fences and cut down trees and stuff like that. But you know,
So you
just the
were
basics.
yeah, you were used to being around people like who enjoyed making things, whether it's like on the
Yeah,
computer or like in real life. That's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, aerospace, that was my major. I never actually did it, but I
Mm,
loved everything. I still love everything with planes. So, but
awesome.
so you're at Boeing now then, right?
I am. Yeah.
So so what did you go to college for?
I don't have a 4-year degree.
Okay.
I graduated high school with an associate's degree.
Oh, wow.
Went through
Okay.
a special program, and and then I worked a year at Jiffy Lube, and I went to a aerospace manufacturing program, just a short 12-week deal, and then that helped me get into Boeing. And so I've been in manufacturing for the last 3 years. I just this month I recently switched out of production, and I'm working in a special projects shop. It's called the Moonshine Shop. It's kind of a long story behind the name, but we do all sorts of prototyping and problem solving to help support production.
Oh, cool, cool. What does like a day-to-day look like? Like is it like a lot of computer work, a lot of engineering stuff there, or are you getting like your hands dirty doing stuff too?
It's Moonshine. The Moonshine Shop is really cool. I get to meet with the customer, internal customer, the person that has a problem. I get to assess the problem, and then basically I get to draw and design, and then prototype and deliver the part to them. So I get to cover all the bases of the problem solving process from design to making the end product.
That's cool.
It's
What,
really
and
fun.
I'm sure you can't go into like specifics, but like what's like an example? Like will someone say like my wing broke on my airplane? Like, or I mean, I'm sure it's like way smaller than that, but like what's kind of like a typical thing that you have to deal with?
So the stuff we do is we don't prototype parts for the airplane, but we
Okay.
prototype like tools or ergonomic solutions or safety solutions or carts or stands, scaffolding. We do have a lot of 3D printing in that shop,
Oh,
so
cool.
stuff like that.
So what are you using to model parts?
Model parts. We don't do any CAD
Okay.
for the unless it's the 3D parts, but basically just a lot of aluminum and Delrin and plywood, polycarbonate, stuff like that.
Sweet. So are you coming up with a 3D model at all, even though you're not doing CAD, or is it all just stuff like you're just working in the real
It's all
world?
just in sketch and sketch it out on the material and go from there.
That's cool. So do you have like big milling machines, or is it a lot of like hand stuff?
We if we need something machined or welded, we have to go down the aisle and have the weld shop or machine shop do some stuff for us, but we have access to all the tools we need.
That's cool. Is it? I'm sure there's union stuff there, right? At
Yeah.
Boeing? Okay. I worked at General Electric for a little bit when I was in college, aircraft engines. And so
Mhm.
it was like it was all computer stuff I would look at. And then there was one rotation I did where there was like this little shop where you could actually get hands on. And that was totally my favorite thing. Like I was like neck deep in like an afterburner, putting like a little sensor or something on,
Awesome.
something dumb. But it was so cool. It sounds like it's cool. You get to get hands on instead of
It's very
just
cool. Yeah.
not working with your hands. So that's your day job, but you still like to build stuff when you're coming home around the weekends too.
Yeah. Yeah. Any spare moment I have.
That's cool. Why do you think you have that itch to make?
Hmm. I think it comes down to solving problems and being curious and wanting to learn. I have a lifelong goal to get my craft to the point where you can hand me any material and a problem and I can make a solution.
That's
So
cool.
I'm a generalist.
Yeah, yeah. What when you are like learning something, like are you going to YouTube or like how are you like building your skills? Because when I was looking through your channel, I think it was real cool. So I was just expecting, I guess, just some woodworking stuff, but I mean, you're pulling out welding, you're doing electronic stuff, you're doing like pneumatic things that I don't know how they work. Like how do you like just develop your skills?
YouTube is a big part of it. YouTube and Instagram and observing other people building stuff. Yeah, the pneumatics thing was something I just picked up this summer. I wanted to learn pneumatics and I didn't have a project in mind. So basically, I just tried to think of some crazy use that a pneumatic cylinder could be used for. And I came up with the pneumatic over engineered bottle opener. And that was my
Yeah.
first experience with pneumatics.
Yeah, yeah. That thing was I've seen people do over-engineered bottle openers before, but
Mhm.
that one I think might have taken the cake on like
Oh, man.
that could like kill somebody. Like it looks super crazy. So that's neat. So are you working out of you said so kind of give people an idea of what your shop space looks like.
Yeah, I'm with my parents, and they're very gracious to give me one stall of their 2-car garage. So I have a 10 by 20 space roughly.
What kind of tools? Like what's kind of the setup?
The setup, the main tools, like a little Ryobi table saw, a portaband, a small welder, drill press, and a chop saw. Love my portaband. That thing's amazing. But yeah, those are the big hitters.
Okay, so what's a portaband? I've
Oh yeah, it's a portable bandsaw.
Oh,
The
okay.
little small ones for cutting conduit and stuff on
Yeah,
job
yeah, yeah,
sites.
yeah. Where it's almost like a circle just with a
Yeah,
almost like
it's
a
like
hand. Yeah.
handheld. Yeah, exactly.
It's like what you would want in a horror movie to kill somebody with. It's like that whenever I
That'd be
see one,
pretty good.
that's what that
Yeah.
reminds me of. Let's see. So where do your project ideas come from? So you said the pneumatic cylinder
Mm.
sounds like you wanted to learn about the cylinder, so you came up with a crazy idea. But like, how do your other ideas come to you?
Yeah. It's usually I want to learn a new process or a new system like pneumatics, or I want to learn how to use a new tool or material. Um, my home run machine that came from a MythBusters episode back in like 2006. I grew up watching, and they made a sword machine that swung a samurai sword, and they
Yeah,
tried cutting other swords in half. So I've always wanted to build that machine since I saw it when I was like 9 or something, and so couldn't really find a good use case for putting a sword on it. So instead, I put a baseball bat on it and came up with the whole story of the home run machine.
that's cool. That's neat. How did you go about designing that? Like, I guess we can use that one as a good example. Like, walk us through kind of the process from idea to when you actually started building it.
Hmm. Yeah, well, first since I knew I was going off a machine that already existed on MythBusters for this one, I just basically just started with a bunch of screenshots. And then I didn't really have any measurements to work with off their screenshots, so I knew I needed a pneumatic cylinder, and I knew it was going to pull a chain that wrapped around a post, and I knew I needed a tube steel frame that kind of supported that. So I needed some flange bearings, and I spec'd just by eyeballing it the kind of hardware I'd need, and then just built a frame around the size parts I had. Kind of went from there.
So you were literally taking basically the build that you saw from MythBusters and just kind of
Mhm.
reverse engineered that.
Yeah, from pictures. And the funny thing is, like a lot of my mechanical projects, like the bottle opener, my mechanical coat rack, or the home run machine, I could easily solve those on paper,
Right.
like before I even cut material. And I think this is part of, other than the lack of schooling, this is part of what makes me not an engineer. Is like I could easily solve them on paper before I start, but that just wouldn't be as fun for me. I'd rather just jump in and start cutting material. And
Yeah.
like the most math I did on the home run machine was, I knew I was going to run a max of 140 psi out of my compressor, a little pancake compressor. I had a 3-inch bore pneumatic cylinder, and it roughly came out to be like about 1,000 pounds of pull. I was like, well, 1,000 pounds sounds like a big number. It ought to be enough, but it wasn't. It was not enough. So I ended up switching or adding a garage door torsion spring. That didn't really add any power, and I ended up just adding a whole second pneumatic cylinder. And I could have saved me all that headache, a couple weeks of work, if I just solved it on paper. But it was the journey was fun.
Yeah, yeah. So how many revisions? Was it three then? Kind of three different design
Hmm.
phases you went through?
Yeah, that one, the home run machine. Yeah, it was about 3 revisions.
That's cool.
One, I started with one cylinder and then the spring and a second cylinder and adding a counterweight. And
And it was just because you saw that on MythBusters, it sounds like, like, I want to build something crazy too.
yeah,
That's
that
funny.
machine caught my eye. I just
Yeah.
liked how it worked.
That's how I feel like everything good starts is you just see something crazy and you want to make it.
Yeah.
So I talked to some folks that are in more of like the prop making world, and it
Mhm.
sounds like the way that you approach the mechanics of something is like how people approach props. Like I love Star Wars, so I've been watching like The Mandalorian, and so people are doing
Yeah,
screen grabs, doing all different stuff from that, and it's like you're literally doing that, but then you're building something that can do something out of it, which is a whole nother level, which is really cool.
yeah. I've been trying to jump into more mechanical moving part projects.
Yeah, yeah, it just seems like a whole nother world. So the welding piece then, was that something you had access to growing up as well, or was that something that came a little bit later?
No, I that came much later. I've had a welder maybe 2 years
Okay.
now, and yeah, I've about almost like 90% of the projects I've done since I got the welder have included welding. I just jumped in.
Yeah. What welder do you have?
I have the Lincoln Handy MIG. It's, I think, the smallest MIG welder they make.
Okay, cool.
You can get it from Home Depot.
Yeah, that I've walked past that one many times and I wanted to pick it up. Welding is the one thing I haven't, like, I really want to add to my shop. I just haven't gotten into. I did a I did a little bit of training on one, and
Mhm.
like once someone showed me how to do it, like it's so much faster than woodworking or anything else. It feels like magic or cheating, like how strong
Yeah,
stuff can get and how quickly you can get stuff knocked out.
exactly.
That's cool. So how far? What was the longest that you were able to do a baseball with your home run machine?
Home run machine. Well, I kind of cheated at the end and I used a lacrosse ball just for fun.
Okay.
And so they're like solid rubber. So that thing
Okay.
went easily 350 plus,
That's great.
350 feet. It was
Yeah.
all.
It's like you're golfing instead of doing doing baseball stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, with a baseball, I hit several, like within a 20-foot radius at around 310 feet.
That's wild. Were you doing this in public? Like I look at it, it looks like you're kind of in a park. Like did you have like weird reactions from people? Like what is it
Um,
doing over there?
it was like a Monday morning,
Okay,
so there wasn't anyone around. But yeah, it was definitely a public park. We just packed it up in the truck and went down and went for it.
that's cool. So what made you decide to film not just that project, but also on YouTube? Like why have you gone through that whole process of filming and putting all that stuff out? Because that's a whole nother
Hmm.
beast to put together.
Yeah. When I first found the maker community, I think in like 2017, I spent like the first year and a half consuming content, and I was making stuff on my own at home too. And I figured, why not just give it a shot and share it with people? Maybe I had a message to share and a value to offer.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you gotten feedback like as you're going through your designs? Like, what's that kind of interaction with the
Hmm.
community like once you start putting stuff out there?
Yeah. That's why I like Instagram stories so much. Is I do a kind of in-depth walkthrough while I'm building it in the moment on my stories, and I get lots of feedback and an awesome conversation there with people and giving tips and feedback and where to buy parts and stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah, the feedback, yeah, especially Instagram story, it's so fast that you can get really cool feedback from folks. And a lot of
Mhm.
times, what was I doing the other day? Oh, I was lasering PLA, so like 3D printing PLA, which
Oh
apparently
yeah.
makes like mustard gas or like some like
Oh
chlorine
wow.
gas or something. So they're like, please don't do that. You're gonna kill yourself. So
Oh boy.
that was good to know.
That's
Um,
helpful.
yeah, very helpful for people that do want to follow, especially your stories. It's Tyler Bell Makes. Is that right? Is that your
Yeah,
Instagram handle?
on Instagram. Yeah.
Cool. And it's is it just Tyler Bell on YouTube?
Yep. Tyler Bell is the brand. It's just taken on Instagram. So
Got it. Got it.
that's
Yeah.
all.
I think I had looked up other Tyler Bell and I'm like, I don't think this is him because they're not building anything. This guy's just talking to camera. Uh, so some of the other builds you've done, do you have like, are you shooting to get like a new project out like once a month? Like, do you have a
Mm.
schedule or is it just kind of whenever you've got something to build, you work on it?
I'm putting out projects as fast as I can, but they're done whenever they're done. And right now, it's been about every month and a half. Like I was looking back the other day, about 7 or 8 YouTube videos, which at that rate, I'm going nowhere in a hurry. So next year for 2020, I'm shooting on upping the quantity but keeping the quality the same. Which to do that, I'm going to have to cut back on the complexity of the project. So I'm trying
Yeah.
to do some shorter, quick turnaround projects.
What type of projects does that lead you towards? Because you said you do like mechanical stuff. So like, can you do
Yeah.
smaller mechanical things?
I could. I think I'll have to cut back on the like. Well, I was planning on at least doing one larger scale project, like the home run machine was probably the largest project I've done so far throughout the year. But some smaller ones, like up next, I've got an old dentist lamp that I'm
Oh, cool.
converting to an LED panel. And it's going to mount above my workbench.
Yeah, yeah.
Be pretty handy.
So what's a dentist lamp?
Dentist lamp, like when you're sitting in the chair at the dentist office,
Okay.
they grab it and they can swivel it around. It's kind of
The
like
one.
your microphone stand, but it
Right.
like
Yeah.
stays wherever you put it,
Got it. Yeah.
like a boom arm.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be great on a stand because I've seen. I guess speaking of MythBusters, so Adam Savage did his like little, was almost like little weird piping things
Oh
where he had
yeah, the
something
lock
similar.
line.
The
Yeah.
lock line, yeah. But that just felt like because he had to put like a metal armature inside of it to keep it
Hmm.
strong enough.
Hmm.
But yeah, like a boom arm like this would make a lot of sense for an LED light. That'd be real cool.
Yeah, it'll be handy.
Do you just come across this stuff randomly? Like I feel like you use some random stuff in your builds.
Yeah, the lamp was from a friend. He just had
Oh,
it
cool.
laying around and thought I could use it, but yeah.
That's cool. That's crazy. So, going to looking at some of your other builds, there is one I saw. I guess it was the steel logo, the backlit sign.
Mm-hmm.
And before I even read the title, I read, or I guess before I saw the text, I was like, oh, he must have like a plasma CNC cutter. Until I saw the text that said no CNC. Like, do you do like any automated those type tools, or is it still mostly hands-on stuff?
Everything in my shop is just I don't have any CNC in my shop. I don't have a
Gotcha.
milling machine or a lathe either, even manual, but
Yeah,
it's all mostly handwork, hand filing and stuff.
yeah. In your day job, it sounds like even those tools then aren't automated. Like it's still all hands-on stuff too.
We can outsource that if we need to. There's shops in the factory we can use, but
Yeah,
most of the time it's all hand built because we're doing small batches of stuff.
yeah. What does working at Boeing like? Does that give you a different perspective when
Mm.
you're looking at something that big when you go to your builds? Like, do you do things differently because you've got like experience there?
Yeah, there are things that I've learned there. Mostly learned from the aircraft structures work. Like I used to work on the 777. I used to do body structures. So basically, I was building the fuselage, like the bones of it,
Oh,
the
cool.
you know the frames and the skin panels and big fittings and stuff. So there's a lot of close tolerance holes that you drill by hand to like a couple degrees of angle variation and stuff, and you got to drill really straight holes by hand. So there's like lots of like very tight tolerance and hole layout and stuff that I've learned and carried over. And
That's cool. Um,
are you doing Twitch or something at the same time?
yeah, so it's doing Twitch, and this is actually on the stream now, so people can get behind the scenes. It won't be on the podcast.
All
So
right.
so yeah, it's I try to do Twitch and also YouTube, but I'm using it's kind of like OBS, but it's a little bit different the
Okay.
way it works, and I'm not sure. This is my first time trying it, so if people are watching. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to you because I keep cutting you out.
No worries.
But cool. So it sounds like the extreme tolerances at Boeing, that was
Yeah.
something that you found beneficial.
Um. Yeah. It's something that I've learned. Like I was talking about this in my stories the other day. Like even if you lay out a symmetrical hole pattern on a part, or you're drilling it a common to two parts, with the bit walking and stuff, if you want those holes, like if you're going to tap into one of the plates, and that whole pattern needs to be exact. Even if that pattern is symmetrical and you flip it over once you've drilled it, the holes will be off a few thousandths, and it'll affect you. So I like to part mark, either with Sharpie, or like I'll make a detent, like a center punch mark in
Okay.
the upper right hand corner, we'll say, on all the like top faces of all the parts. So when I stack them
Okay.
up together, they line up.
That's cool.
So lots of tedious part marking stuff like that is something I've learned.
Yeah, yeah. I never even would have thought about like I would have thought you'd be able to flip it over and you'd be fine. But that makes sense. You'd have to do something like that. That's crazy. What type of tolerances um, were did you have to work with at Boeing?
Uh, I don't know how to answer that without reading the spec, so
Okay,
maybe
okay.
we'll gloss over that.
Okay. So how about when you're doing your own builds? Like when you talk about tolerances,
Hmm.
like what is not good enough for you when you, especially when you're working with metal and you're doing stuff like that?
Yeah. I'm not as tight toleranced as like the stuff I built isn't near the tolerance that I work on with aircraft.
Right.
So maybe not the tolerances apply in what I build at home, but just the mindset of being maybe exact and methodical about laying out parts and hole patterns and dimensioning and stuff.
Yeah, that's something I'm horrible at. I will just because I mean most of my stuff is wood, so I'm like I'll just fill that up with like wood glue and sawdust
Oh yeah.
later. I'm like forget it. But yeah, getting it right the first time, or like when you're talking about drilling holes in something, like I just go straight to I'm just going to use my CNC versus some you
Hmm.
having the actual skills to be able to do it by hand, and you probably would do it better anyway. That's cool. So what you said 2020? It sounds like you're going to be doing some smaller builds, but you are wanting to do bigger builds. So are there things out there like project ideas that you like want to tackle or that you see coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, I've got a vision for like it's ridiculous, but it's like it'd be like the world's fastest curtains. So it'd be
Okay.
like pneumatic cylinders attached to the curtain rod, and you like use a clap on, and then there's like a pneumatic cylinder parked behind the couch or
Right.
a pressure you know tank, and
Yeah.
it fires these cylinders with a really long stroke and closes the curtains in like the blink of an eye.
That's crazy. And it would sound incredible and would scare the
Oh,
crap
it
out of
would.
people.
Totally, that'd be part of the fun.
You could almost build that into like a burglar like alarm system or something.
Oh yeah,
Like
like metal shutters, and they get locked in. There's sirens, and
that's what I'm thinking of. It's like shoot, what's the movie? The horror movie where they're uh, shoot. Where they're trying like you can kill somebody on one day a year. Forget the
oh,
name.
the Purge.
The Purge, yeah. And so like I think it was like the very first one where they had the security things and like everything
Oh
locks
yeah,
down. And, like that's what that makes me think of
that's funny. You
for those
think of the
curtains.
Purge. I was thinking more Monsters Inc., but same thing applies.
Hey, I love Pixar way more. I think The Purge is the only horror movie I've seen. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
When they come in and lock it down because Boo
yes,
gets out, that makes sense. That's cool.
exactly.
So, like something like that, where does that idea come from?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not sure where that one came from. That I don't know. That was back when I came up with that when I was trying to think of excuses to use pneumatic
Okay,
cylinders. I was just
cool.
thinking of ridiculous things that no one would ever use them in the right mind for.
Yeah, yeah. Where do you source stuff like that, like pneumatic cylinders and like those more mechanical pieces from?
I spec'd the part numbers I needed from Bimba. There's a manufacturer called Bimba. They make pretty high quality stuff, and I just found them on eBay.
Oh, cool, cool.
People
Uh,
buy probably bulk stuff from surplus and then sell it.
Yeah, yeah, that's sweet. So when you do have ideas, like, do you have a system of like writing them down or like keeping them for the future, or you just kind of have stuff
Mhm.
that will rattle around in your head for a while?
No, I make tons of
Okay.
lists, and I use Trello for my project ideas and stuff. I've got
Oh, cool.
cards for different types of ideas.
Yeah, yeah. Trello's a ton of fun. I use it a little bit for that type of stuff.
Mhm.
That's cool. How many cards do you have in there like right now, if you had to guess?
Um, cards, like of individual ideas,
Yeah, just like how many potential project ideas do you think are out there?
like actually doable ones, probably a couple dozen.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So, all right, I love that you qualified that with actual doable ones. Like, what is your
yeah.
craziest one that you have in there right now?
Oh boy. Um, I wanted to put like a bunch of model rocket engines on one of those hoverboards that kids use,
Yes. Okay.
but then I figured that wouldn't work because it would just like it'd be like the equivalent of trying to coast down a hill, like it would brake for you.
Yeah.
So I wrote that one off, but that was pretty wild.
Do you have any other project ideas on the model rocket side of things, like with those engines?
Oh yeah, I wanted to. Not necessarily with model rockets. I do want to do stuff with rockets, but I
Okay.
don't have the capability to get anything larger than a model rocket yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet, but yeah, I wanted to do like a rocket-assisted trebuchet. Like instead of a
Oh,
big
cool.
counterweight, it'd
Right.
just be like rockets. You preload it, you pull a string, and then it goes.
That would look amazing as well
Right.
on video. That would look so cool. How so going back to YouTube for a second, how do you approach your builds differently, knowing that you're gonna want to capture it, like not just for Instagram stories because that's a little more kind of in the moment, but like I guess more formally with a camera. Like, do you think about it differently, or do you still find yourself building kind of in the same way?
Yeah, I've been trying to focus more on storytelling the last few videos. Like I want to make that a big pillar of my videos. So yeah, I've been trying to incorporate some more like editing magic tricks and maybe some skits and dumb jokes, and those all kind of are stuff I think about. And I'll write short scripts every now and then of bullet points and things I want to do or mention or talk about and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they are. The videos are awesome. This
Appreciate it.
just for because it looks like you've only been on. You haven't been on super long, right?
No, just a year and a half.
Okay, yeah. But especially even this last one, I was like, man, this is really polished. This is way more polished than what folks mostly or usually are after just like a year doing stuff, which
Appreciate
is,
it.
and then
I
and
do have
then and then the builds are just crazy on top of all of that. So
I appreciate it. I
yeah,
do have to give some credit. A couple of my videos have been shot by my friend Edward Lee Films. He does an excellent job. He's a professional freelance videographer.
oh, cool. Okay, that makes, I mean, not more
Just a
sense, but
couple.
that definitely helps having
It
another
helps, yeah.
person. You can actually like have the camera move, and it's not just on a drive by the whole time or something.
Exactly,
It
yeah.
looks way cooler.
It feels different, yeah.
Yeah, that's neat. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time and chatting. And if folks don't know, we've been dropping out here a little bit, so thank you for putting up with that. But for people that do want to follow along, I think we mentioned it earlier, but you said Tyler Bell Makes on Instagram, and then Tyler Bell on YouTube. Any other places you would send people?
That's it. Just Tyler Bell on YouTube would be the big one I'd send people to.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time and chatting with us. It's really cool to see what you're making. So
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been rad.
yeah, totally, man.